And welcome back to Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. Today, some interesting stuff. Are college dorms being overbooked as students return? Stuff going around on social media of college campuses being full and where the overflow is going is kind of startling at times. Have you noticed the supply chain? You brought up an interesting story about how things aren't being shipped on time, and obviously inflation, different things like that. So we wanted to touch on that as well. Really interesting story about the Cleveland Guardians. There may already be a Cleveland Guardians, so we'll dive into that as well. And Simone Biles makes her return to the beam. But first and foremost, Mark, how are you feeling today?
I feel great. How's that?
That's it. That's it. You got the purple rain behind you.
I got purple rain going on. Yeah, we don't have a wheel this week, but so we have. Have you ever seen purple rain?
I have not.
You should. I've watched a lot. Now I might.
We've talked about this. Like, I'm a little out on Prince. Remember, we had that quick conversation about, like, I think he's brilliant, but I think there's a lot of people. I think he was ahead of his time, and that certainly helped him.
You were just. I know people like you hate when I say this. You're just too young. You're just too young to appreciate the greatness of. Like, I was a hair metal rock and roll guy.
And you liked Prince.
And I still loved Prince.
Yeah. No, I enjoy Prince. It's just a little bit off. There are things going around. This is interesting.
Speaking of things you would not enjoy. Let's go to things you would not enjoy.
Because for most of us, the idea of like showing up to college campus is like you show up, you get your key, you get your roommate, you walk into your dorm room, you make your bed, you hang up the Purple Rain poster, and that was our college experience. However, what students are finding now returning to campus after COVID, I iffy with that after COVID, but returning back to campus now after a while, students are showing up and some of the campuses are being overbooked. There is a TikTok going around that's viral on Purdue's campus, and I scattered the internet trying to make sure, like trying to verify that this was happening. Everything that I can tell is that this is a legit video of a Purdue freshman who found out that she will not be getting a dorm room, but rather she is getting like the nook of what appears to be almost like a conference room or a room in a library, where they took like shelves and basically made makeshift rooms. So they made like 8 kind of like nook cornered spaces in this one large conference room, and that is being called their freshman dorm.
It is, yes. It's a glorified army barracks is what it looks like, from like what we see in movies of like guys that are bunked up in basic training. And so that's what it is. They're not bunked, but they have their little section of it. Looks like a big open room, like a library, and they have their section. So, at least I'll say this. There's not going to be a lot, I would suspect. There'll be much less hanky-panky going on in that freshman dorm there because there's just no door to shut.
It's interesting, too, because, first, Purdue is surprised me. Like, this isn't, it's not a small university. It's going to be interesting because we've talked about, like, they're giving seniors an extra year athletically, but we never talked about what that looks like for students who maybe sat out a semester, students who waited to go to campus, like, it's almost like a double freshman class in a sense, because there are students who kind of held off on taking specific classes or held off, showing up to campus until they could get the full experience. And now you're almost getting this double freshman class and they're showing up to campus and it's not what they're expecting. So it's just, you talk about like COVID fallout and things rebounding and what ends up happening. I'm certain that this was not one of the things that college campuses were prepared for or that we really thought about might be a result of happening.
Well, and we're going to get to supply chain of the world because I had an interesting conversation about that. But yeah, schools know, they like when they see how many kids apply and how many kids they accept, they know basically what percentage are going to come. And they've had years and years and years of this math. It's never perfect, but they know if we accept this many incoming freshmen, this many are going to show. And these are the dorms that we fill. And now because of what COVID has done with kids being remote, kids being here, and they're trying to figure out how much money they lost and how they can make it back. And I would bet that a lot of these schools are guesstimating how many kids will accept this many. And if 15% of them take classes remotely, then we can fill the dorms. And they estimated whatever percentage was going to take it remotely. And instead of 15%, it was only 10%. And now they've got this extra collection of 5% in your margin, and they didn't have room for them. So they put them in the library. And that's all speculation. That's my guess. But that's what I think happened.
It looks like a library or conference room. The main point is it's very clearly not a dorm. Like, it is not like your brick and mortar, like you walk in, you have your 2 beds. And it's interesting. It
reminds me of Revenge of the Nerds when their house burned down and they put them in the gym. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it kind of does. It's very makeshift is definitely the word to use. But the other thing too, like, it's a higher ceiling. So it's not like you're just kind of like tucking it in and like you can't look over the top. Like, you're going to be able to hear everything that everybody is doing and everybody is saying. Like, to watch TV in your space, like, it would be very difficult to do anything without anybody hearing what you're doing.
Well, no 19-year-olds watch TV. Everything is with earbuds. So that's
on their phone and in your I mean, it has to be now.
So I just also want to point out, whenever we're trying to have an intelligent discussion and we want to pull a film reference, Revenge of the Nerds is a great one to go to.
It's definitely worthwhile. I have not watched that in a very long time.
You should.
A very long time. Have you noticed, you kind of mentioned this and you brought it up this morning. Have you noticed how chaotic the supply chain is? You and I have talked about kind of like the fast food industry, how much it has shifted, kind of like the lines, employment, how long it's taking to get the food, people's eating habits shifting because like they're not open after 8 o'clock at night. But you also brought up some other instances with the supply chain earlier today.
Well, I have a buddy that's in town that he used to be a bigwig at Lonza, and then he got promoted out of state to another Lonza branch because, for those people who are locally in this area that know of the Lonza, it's a huge company. It's worldwide. And now he works for a different company in, some sort of manufacturing, but he's, one of the bigwigs. And he was talking about this, and he explained it to me in very simple terms, which I never thought of. He said, most of these industries work on a just-in-time inventory, which if you ever took an accounting class, and they don't stockpile stuff because it costs money to stockpile stuff. And you have to have a warehouse. You have to have places for this. And he said, while this stuff is going on, while COVID, he said, it's like the world is on a conveyor belt. And he said, just because one part of it, like the U.S. says, whoa, we don't need any more of those, the conveyor belt's still rolling. And that's, you remember back at the beginning when we had this oversupply of gasoline. Yeah. And they're like, what do we do with it? Because nobody's driving anywhere, so nobody's burning it. So that's basically, what's happened to a lot of this, that people couldn't stock up because they have no way to stock up. And then he told me the whole issue with semiconductors and the automobile industry. He said one of the issues is that they found out that so many people are working from home and so many big businesses are restructuring their electronic stuff to help people work from home, that they found they can make more money selling it directly to other places as opposed to the auto industry. So the auto industry got pushed down. And how much we had talked about this, you told me a story about that you'd heard, but on these container ships or these cargo ships that have a containers used to essentially be free. It was like going into the grocery store and getting a shopping cart. And you go fill your stuff up and then you pay for the shopping cart. Now, because of the demand and the world is so crazy, it would be like you going to the grocery store and they say $50 just for the cart. And he's like, these companies that used to get this, the container was just part of the deal. Now they are paying like thousands of dollars and sometimes $10,000s of dollars and more just to guarantee that their container of the stuff that they need is on this ship. So it's just it's not just so much of the people that were making it. It's that they made it and then there was an overabundance of it and they didn't know where to store it and they couldn't. And just the whole and it will settle itself out in time, but it's going to take a while because it's just it was so much more out of whack than we know. But if you talk to people who kind of get how the whole world function flows, they can tell you there's so many arms and branches of this that we just can't comprehend.
The perfect example actually happened a month ago, 2 months ago here in Lycoming County when the bakery basically closed its doors without notice. And for a lot of people, it was like, well, how could they not have bread? And what they don't realize is like, it's a daily delivery. And so when they're making this bread, like it doesn't have a 7-day shelf life. It doesn't have a 10-day shelf life. Like a lot of the bread that was being delivered was like a 2-day, 3-day shelf life. And so to your point, like once that conveyor belt stops moving, the whole system just kind of shifts and it kind of like almost collapses onto itself because someone says, well, why don't they just go get the bread somewhere else? Well, that's great. But like, where do they put the bread? Where are they putting this stuff? Are they freezing it? Are they holding on to it? There's just so many other logistics to the supply chain and how it all works. So that like coming bread incident, like we think of it like being like, well, how could there not be bread? But it's such a broader example because it's amazing how many things actually work that way. They are on kind of like this daily routine. It's more like a weekly shipment. It's not like they have warehouses and warehouses of this stuff and it's all stored and they're able to just walk in and grab what they need. You know, it's all interconnected and interwoven. And I've noticed it now more than not. The first time that I noticed it was the fast food stuff. They were running out of different things, different materials. All of a sudden, like you stopped getting straws in your bag. All of a sudden you were getting 1 napkin instead of 5, like very subtle, very like unique things that you could just tell like the supply chain was down a little bit.
I thought maybe they only give you 1 napkin because they know you won't make a mess. And they give me 5 because, but like, and that's one of the other things that's so simplistic. We've been so spoiled that like with the bread industry, you're like, well, why don't they go somewhere else? So then let's look at that bread manufacturer. They have to double their production. Right. Well, to double their production, they have to increase their staff. Well, where are they going to get their staff? How are they going to get their staff trained? What does this do to their, the mechanics of, does it mean they run through the machines more? And now do they have to, because just to make bread, you need the flour, you need all the supplies to make your bread. So they have to order more of it. Where do they get that from? And where do they store the extra stuff? Because they might not have a big empty half a room to be like, well, if we get 100 bags of flour, we'll just get 200 bags of flour. Well, maybe the room where they put it in doesn't hold 200. Well, so there's all these pieces.
And you have to remember too, like all of these, especially chains, right? So like a Starbucks or a Fridays or especially chain restaurants, their specs are literally made down to the exact amount of space that they need. So these things are designed around like a 3-day shipment period, a 7-day shipment period, whatever the franchise believes makes them the most money. So these like every nook and cranny is filled down to like these, there is no extra space because they have figured out to the dollar amount what is the maximum amount of space that they need. So exactly what you're saying, it's not as simple as just finding the material and storing it away. There's nowhere to put this stuff in a normal restaurant, diner, coffee shop, whatever it may be, even a furniture store, right? Like, or even like a car, like they just don't have the space to put the things where you can just back it up and have it just in case. The whole system is made so that you don't need a just in case, you call, you say, this is what I need and it's delivered. So the whole supply chain thing, like you said, it will all eventually balance itself out. What I have noticed is like, I don't think we're near like the end of it. Like, I don't even think we've begun to go back down the other side. Like, I think we're just starting to notice like the real supply chain shortages.
I agree. And I think as a talking topic, it's kind of boring on the surface, but I think the more you delve into it, that you figure out how things are interwoven. And it's just the more I've thought about it, the more fascinating it is. And the more I'm like, wow, it's not going to go like back to like this in a week.
And it's things you would never think of. Like I mentioned napkins before, and like companies start, instead of stuffing 5 napkins in the bag, they're doing 1 because they don't want to run out. Ketchup packets, Chick-fil-A sauce packets, like just little things that you don't on a daily basis, unless you're like in the industry and you're working, like you just don't think about those things. And that's what happened like with the Chick-fil-A sauces. Like Chick-fil-A, like it was good advertising for them. So it was like, here, take 7 sauce. Like, oh, you want Chick-fil-A sauce? Here's 7 of them. Well, then all of a sudden, like there's a shortage, and all of a sudden it's like, well, you have to tell us exactly what you want. And here's 1 packet. And so you don't even think about that stuff until it's actually in front of you and it's actually happening.
Nope.
You don't.
All right, what's next?
I'm gonna save the Cleveland Guardians ones for the end because I think that one's really, really interesting.
That's the best one.
That's the best one. So Simone Biles is back. She's gonna return to the beam. You actually broke this news to me. I did not hear about this until you told me.
I think it's tomorrow, and I should know this. And the way it works is in each individual. Well, if you're just, I assume a lot of people know this because it is Olympic time.
Yeah.
But there's a team competition. There's the individual all around and that's like the grand poobah of gymnastics where they do each event. And in women's, I don't know if you know this, but you know a lot of stupid stuff. So you probably know this. In men's gymnastics, there are 6 events. Yes. In women's gymnastics, there are only 4 events.
Yes.
Men don't do the balance beam. Men do like the rings, the pommel horse, and the high bar. And they also do the vault, the floor, and I'm missing one, but whatever. Women only do the floor exercise, the balance beam, the uneven bars, and the vault. So, but in like preparation as you get into this, and I don't know how they do it, or somewhere in the prelims or whatever, you have to qualify. So not every person that makes the Olympics gets to do, the vault or the balance beam or whatever when they do the individual men. So Simone Biles and the girl who won the individual all around, I can't remember her name, the girl from Michigan.
Sun-Chi Lee?
Yes, her.
Yes.
So they're both in this. Well, if Simone Biles backs out, America doesn't just get to put like their next best American. They go by someone else. So it doesn't. So either she was going to be out and some other like the next alternate, the next high score was going to be in. But it's not like America just is like, hey, we get our best 2 and here they go. Right. So Simone's back. This is the last one. And if this was live prime time America, the ratings for this would be out of this world because there's nothing else to watch. But since it's in Japan, she'll probably compete at 7:30 in the morning and it'll be tape delayed. But I still think, even though everyone knows, I think the world will be glued to watch Simone Biles on the balance beam.
Yeah, and not to shift the topic away from Simone Biles, I have more than most years. I have struggled with the time difference this Olympics. It hasn't made me disinterested in them, but I have like just knowing what's going to happen and just kind of hearing it before you get to see it. For me personally, like it's taken kind of some of the gleam out of the Olympics.
Well, see, because you're younger and more technologically hooked,
it's hard for me to avoid it. Like it's hard for me to not see
very well.
So you
and
don't
I think
have
I told
any
you
issue
this
with
during the one relay in the pool. For the last leg, I was standing in my basement in front of the television because I was so into it. Because I didn't know who won. So when I'm careful when I flip to ESPN during like a commercial or something, if the bottom ticker is the Olympics, I make sure I don't look at it or I turn the channel again. But I have done very, very well with when I get a update on something on my phone.
Right.
If I see that it's about I got one and it said something about either Katie Ledecky or relay or something right away, and I just turned it because I didn't want to know what it said.
Yeah. I've struggled with it a couple like years back when we sent the Redeem team for basketball. They played Spain in the gold medal game, and the game was at 3:30 a.m. Eastern, live.
And you watched it?
I did. I stayed up to watch it and I was up until like 5:30, like watching the press conferences and stuff because I just knew I wouldn't enjoy it the next day, knowing what had happened. And granted, like that was easy. Like I was in college, like that was an easy pull. It's not as easy now to like wait to see some of this stuff. It's not as easy to stay up and watch some of the stuff. It hasn't ever bothered me before. Maybe it's just me getting older, but like this year it has kind of like, I haven't been able to enjoy it as much because of that.
And when I think of your statement there, what made it really challenging wasn't staying up till 3:30 to watch. It was getting home by 3:30 to make sure you made it to tip-off.
No, I think it was, if I'm remembering this correctly, I believe it was a Tuesday into Wednesday.
So you were still out at 3:30 in the morning.
And I was at that age where, like, as a college basketball player, like, we had just lost the gold medal 4 years before. and we had lost 2 years earlier. We had lost like the FIBA, whatever. So this was like, as a basketball fan, this was like America claiming back the throne, and like it was a big deal. So but yeah, I remember like not wanting it to be ruined and staying up and having to watch that. But
the
I don't
Redeem
know.
Team. I like it. I like
great.
the Redeem Team.
All right, this is my favorite story of the day so far.
This will be this may be your favorite story of August, and it's only day 2.
Day 2. But this is pretty great. So the Cleveland Indians have decided to change their name to the Cleveland Guardians. You and I have already discussed that. People have different opinions on it. That's a conversation for another day, and one we've already had. However, what we didn't know is that there was already a Cleveland Guardians, and they are a men's roller derby team. And as if that's not great enough, it gets even better. They already have clevelandguardians.com. So if you go to www.clevelandguardians.com, you will find Cleveland's men's roller derby team. They also own almost every single social media account. The only one that they do not is Twitter, because they just didn't dive into Twitter, and that's rightfully so. I don't know if they would have wanted to dive into Twitter. Here's the catch. The Cleveland Indians now have filed a lawsuit trying to claim the name. Their biggest claim right now is that the accounts have been inactive. Now, the Cleveland Guardians men's derby team was created in 2011. The Cleveland Indians are trying to claim that the accounts have been inactive for almost 2 years. And most people have already caught on. The irony there is almost everybody has been inactive for the last 2 years, especially a men's roller derby team that doesn't make a ton of money and obviously wasn't able to compete during 2019 and 2020. So there is this idea of like, should they try to work something out with the Cleveland Indians? Are the Cleveland Indians just kind of trying to like nudge them out of the way? What's really happening here? But first of all, if you're the Cleveland Indians, you had to know this was going to be an issue.
Apparently they did not. I should begin this by saying we are remiss, because you and I are both huge fans of men's roller derby. And the fact that we did not know this, we should have known this. This is something that I don't know how we missed it. But yeah, I mean, you just think in the world, and again, I'm 49 years old, but I'm as addicted to my phone as everyone else. But we'll have meetings, and there will be stuff that is being discussed, and you across the room will all of a sudden already start searching, and people start talking about lunch.
Yeah.
And they're like, where are we ordering from this place? And you're like, do we have a menu? And someone else will I just pulled it up on my phone. I'll send it to you.
Sure.
Like, that is the world that we live in. So I'm questioning how many old stuffed shirts are sitting in this room discussing it, where there's if they would have allowed one 21-year-old intern into this meeting, the intern would have been like, oh, we have a problem. But nobody... Right. Like, everybody in this discussion has to be old enough that they don't get how it works. Like, right. my son wouldn't have Googled it. My son would have asked Siri, is there a Cleveland Guardians? And Siri would have said, yes, you moron, there already is. Right. And so, like, that is the part, the disconnect. And one of the things that I love about this era is, the old people in life have always been like, I'm so smart. And it's like, all through history, the old people have kind of told the young people how they're dumb and they don't know anything, whatever. And now with this advancement of technology, and the young people in so many ways are smarter than the old people. And it just makes me laugh when something like this comes up, because literally you could not have taken a room full, not even a room full, a dining room table full of 14-year-olds, and they would have known that there was a Cleveland Guardians in 3 minutes, because somebody would have looked it up.
So I guess this is where maybe, I don't want to say it gets worse, but like, I think they knew. And so the point that I'm making is like, if they knew, they truly just believed they would be able to get whatever they wanted. Like, it didn't matter that a men's roller derby team had claimed the name. They were like, we're the Cleveland Indians and we're going to be able to get it. And that's kind of the way they're acting right now. Like, they have a lawsuit they're trying to say it's been inactive for 2 years. They're trying to claim the domain name. They're trying to claim the social media accounts. So like what makes it worse is I think they actually knew what you're describing, and they just said it doesn't matter. We'll just take them to court, and we have more money, and we'll win it out anyway.
So you think they were just going to bully him out of it?
That's kind of, that's what I think. I think they felt that they had the financial strong arm to just be like, listen, we're the Cleveland Indians. We want to be the Cleveland Guardians. You're a men's roller derby team. This is like, we could go to court over this, but realistically, like, we're going to win out. So let's just come to an agreement and make this work. And right now, the men's roller derby team is like, no thanks. Like, we're good. Like, we have the name, like, we have the domain name, like, it's ours. So, like, that to me, yes, they probably were curmudgeon-y enough to believe that they were just going to be able to do what they wanted to do. But I think they honestly thought that the men's roller derby team would just fold. There's no, I find it hard to believe that they didn't know there was a Cleveland Guardians.
I don't. And you may be right. It wouldn't shock me if they were like, what? How are we supposed to know? It's the best. The funniest thing for me about, I don't even know which is the funniest thing, but the article that you sent me that was in, I think it was in Deadspin. Is that where you saw?
I sent you the Deadspin one.
Basically, the guy wrote, he said, it's a men's roller derby team. So if the Cleveland baseball team, which I guess I don't know if they have a name right now, if they sent him like a 6-figure check, he said it would be a king's ransom for a men's roller derby team. And then he followed it up, but he said, but Cleveland hasn't paid to have a real major league outfield in years. Right. So why would they buy a name? And so I don't know. It certainly doesn't make the world look at this organization and say, oh, they really know what they're doing.
Yeah, no, it's very bizarre. And you and I have agreed, like, this is the other part too. If it's not, I don't think the Guardians is a great name. I don't think it's awful. Like, there's certainly worse, but like, it's not a great name. So you're kind of like, are you going to write a $500,000 check for the name Guardians? Like, or is that really like what you, so because they're going to end up coughing up some money. Like, they're not getting this name for free. And so like, how much would you pay for the Cleveland Guardians? Especially like I don't think the result has been completely negative, but I would bet you the majority of people in Cleveland are not thrilled with the name Guardians.
Yeah, I heard a thing, and there are people that said they loved it. You've seen the Drew Carey show, right?
Oh yeah.
Can't they be the Cleveland Rocks?
So
and rock not be a verb, but just a stone that just sits out. We're a rock.
A stone. So the Cleveland Rockers were one of the original WNBA teams. I do not know if they are still there. I don't believe so.
But not a rocker, just a rock.
You like don't a brick. The Rocks. You don't want to be the Cleveland Rocks.
Why? They could be a rock.
Be the Cleveland Rocks.
Their logo could be a pile of rocks.
No, Rocks is worse than the Guardians. I like Rockers, but it's already been used. It's already been taken.
Cleveland Rocks.
You don't think so?
Rockers has been. I like Cleveland Rocks.
Somebody said that this should be the plot for the movie Major League 4.
There you go.
They should have to play for the name.
Can I tell you this? And I say this with all honesty. I've never seen Major League 2 or 3. I think there's a 3, right? I saw the first one.
There's multiple. Yes.
I know Tom Berenger came back as the manager in 2. I have seen bits and pieces of it, but I've never seen the whole thing.
Yeah, Major League 4, that would be a good one. They have to play for the name. They have to play for the right to the name. That would be great. I did. Did you watch the new Space Jam yet?
No.
Speaking of like Major League 4, okay, neither have I. We should watch that.
So you told me about Disney Cruise. You watched Disney Cruise.
I did. I watched Disney Cruise.
What's it called? It's not
Jungle Cruise. I watched Jungle Cruise. It was good. It's really good. It reminded me, remember when Pirates of the Caribbean first came out, and it was it was almost fresh because like there hadn't been like a swashbuckling like family adventure film, and it kind of the same thing. It's like it's not going to knock your socks off, but we've been so like marveled out like superhero, like it was nice to just kind of have like a swashbuckling like family kind of movie. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It is worth watching. Emily Blunt is fantastic. And then The Rock does a really nice job. He has somehow become, is The Rock underrated somehow? Like I forgot how enjoyable The Rock is.
Have you seen, I just had this discussion with have you seen the Jumanjis?
Yes.
I think The Rock's comedic timing is so natural that I think he will never be appreciated for how talented he is, just because he's this big masculine and all the women think he's whatever.
Sure.
His comedic delivery is effortless. Yeah. What was the one? There was he was the cartoon one. Is it Moana? Do I have the wrong one?
Moana.
What was that? Him?
Yeah, he was the voice in Moana.
He was great in that.
Yeah,
I laughed all the way through Moana. So I remember first I was home alone and the first Jumanji came on, not the Robin Williams one, but the first of the new ones. And I was like, Kevin Hart's in it. How bad can it be? And I've watched it now multiple times. I think they're really good. And he does a lot of like punny stuff, like a lot of puns, a lot of quips, like stuff like this in this movie. He's just very, very good. You did not go to the theater to see it. You watched it at home.
I ended up watching it on the projector. We had my nieces come over and we actually put it up like on our back porch. We took like a white sheet and put it up.
Did they like it?
So no, it's two, just first of all, my one niece is 3.
Right.
She's at that age yet where like it still kind of has to be animated, or there has to be like puppies, like constant, like, so we tried 101 Dalmatians and she was like really into that. So she's still at that age where like the realness is too much for her. Like
I know you're not an elementary teacher, so this is not in your wheelhouse. Give me like you think like an 8-year-old, 10-year-old would like it?
Jungle Cruise? Yeah.
Yes.
There's enough action and there's enough things going on. I think like an 8 to 10-year-old, this is right up their alley. Like it's a good introduction to kind of like that kind of like adventure film. Because that's the challenge here is like you're making like it's a Disney Jungle Cruise movie, but you're trying to make it so a 6-year-old could enjoy it and a 60-year-old could enjoy it. I thought Disney did a really nice job. But also too, like I said, like it's kind of weird how nothing like that has been around in a while. Because I loved Pirates of the Caribbean, but part of Pirates of the Caribbean's success is like we had waited so long for like that action adventure-y kind of like Disney film. And so this is kind of like bouncing back to that after the pandemic.
Did you like any of the sequels
of Pirates of the Caribbean? I appreciated them for what they were. It was always going to be hard to duplicate what they did that first time.
And that's fair.
Yes.
That's fair.
That first one was like, for lack of a better term, that first one was kind of magical in a way. They really like Johnny Depp's character and even like Keira Knightley and just kind of it all hit and meshed kind of perfectly. To try to duplicate it again was always going to be a challenge.
And I get that, and that's fair. And I know we've talked about this with Jurassic Park and we've talked about it with Jaws. Yeah. And there are some, but like, as iconic as Star Wars was, the second one was better, which most people would agree. Rocky, as iconic as Rocky was, Rocky 3 was a great time. Rocky 4 with the Russian, like they weren't all, and I know the first one is, but there's a lot of Rockies that you could put in. I love Rocky Balboa and then the Creed movies. So it is not impossible for these movies to come back with a follow-up that is, I thought the second Jumanji was really good, just as we were talking about that. I don't know.
Jumanjis are good.
So it is not always easy, but a lot of the movie, and of course The Godfather, and then The Godfather 2, and I think Godfather 2 won like every award back, Best Picture and all that stuff. So there are some that followed up. Pirates of the Caribbean did not do a great job in the sequels in my book.
No, it didn't. So Jungle Cruise was enjoyable. Be sure to check that out. We have, for the adults, we have been watching White Lotus on HBO. It's like a dark satire comedy So if you are an adult who likes like dark satire, this is amazing. It's called The White Lotus on HBO. It's 4 episodes in. They release a new episode every Friday night. Every Sunday night. So that is, if you're an adult and you're kind of looking for something to kind of watch, right, The White Lotus dark comedy on HBO I have thoroughly enjoyed it.
Here's my brilliance of the world. Isn't a lotus a car? Is that what it is? Or is
I
there
think it's a
some other
flower.
meaning?
I think a lotus is a flower. Yeah. If anyone knows, comment for us if anyone knows. I'm pretty sure White Lotus is the name of like a jungle flower. I could be wrong, but
so now this also shows the intellectual abilities here. You're watching White Lotus, and
yes.
I'm watching Rick and Morty.
I love Rick and Morty though. I love Rick and Morty. We'll have to see. Is it the new season you're watching, or are you like watching it? Okay.
No, I have not backtracked through it. I might need to. It is embarrassing how much I laugh at this show.
It's funny because they'll walk in, like my girlfriend would walk in and she'd see me watching, and she's like, "Do you always watch cartoons?" And I'd be like, "I promise you, like this isn't really a cartoon. Like this is a little more than a cartoon." I've always enjoyed though, like adult. I loved The Simpsons. I loved Family Guy, like the Rick and Morty stuff. Like I've always enjoyed like adult animation, always.
I watched The Simpsons.
Okay.
I did not watch any of the other ones. Rick and Morty I'll just say it's embarrassing. If you were watching it with me, I would be embarrassed at how much I laugh at it. It is hysterical.
All right. Well, that was a good one.
I mean, it's no White Lotus, but then again, what is?
It is a flower. White Lotus is a flower, but it also apparently is a car as well. So there you go.
Yeah, I knew that. I didn't know it was a flower. So.
It is worthwhile.
Connie
Connie Britton's in it. She's the mom from Friday Night Lights that everybody.
Oh, I think I've seen the previews for that.
You have, and Alexandria Daddario is in it. She did some movies with The Rock and some like adventure stuff. It's just again, you have to like that type of comedy. Like it's dark satire, which makes it unique and special. But it's really good, and it keeps you on your heels. You never really know what to expect. Steve Zahn is in it. Remember Steve Zahn? He was always like the sidekick in like Matthew McConaughey movies and different comedies. Like he was never the main lead, but he was always like the sidekick that was kind of funny.
I like Connie Britton was in Nashville.
Yes. Yep. So she's
thing I love and I liked the show Nashville, but the thing I loved about it was Connie Britton came from Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
And the other little girl, Hayden Panettiere or whatever her name is, came from Remember the Titans. So this was like this football conglomerate of
really worked for you. And then the other one for Office fans, Plop, who is in like the final season and a half of The Office. Everyone knows him lovingly as Plop. He is one of the main characters in this show. So it's a nice little Office kind of like bounce back. And then this past week, Molly Shannon from SNL made an appearance on the show as well. So really enjoyable. So for adults, when the kids are tucked in bed, put on The White Lotus if you kind of like your dark satire humor.
So when you say, is it like, I don't know about like dark satire. So it's not like laugh out loud funny.
No, it's like a slow, dramatic, and the humor is in the realism. The humor is in like the real world scenarios and the real life reactions of people, and it being kind of like built up. So like the humor is in the sadness of like the world and the reality of the world. It's just very, very well done, very unique. Not a lot of comedies are like this. It's very, very well done. But again, like it's for you have to be the right audience, right? Like if you're watching it because you like slapstick comedy, like this isn't for you, right? If you're watching it because you like the one line improv, like it's not for you.
What about the people who are watching it because they like sex and violence?
There's a little bit of both of those.
Okay, it's got a shot. I mean, I'm not going to watch it.
It's an HBO show. I think you see, the funny part is you say you won't watch it, but this is like, you would appreciate the cynicism and the realism of this show. You really would.
I try not to get hooked on series because it's a lot. That's a lot of time to invest.
The nice thing is it's a mini series, 1 season. So it's 6 episodes done. It's based off of a book.
Oh, so it's like
one.
It's like Queen's Gambit then.
Yes, 6 episodes, 1 hour each, done, out.
Oh, okay. I could do that.
Yes. And it's worthwhile.
That's just like 6 trips on the exercise bike.
No, yeah, that's easy. That'll get you through a week. All right. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show.
Listen, I ain't riding a bike every day. That'll get me through like 3 weeks.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to our sponsors, and thank you to NorthcentralPa.com. Be sure to go there for all your local news, and we will be back tomorrow.
By the way, I'll just tell you this story out loud because I just had a guy stop me who, like before, last time I'd seen him, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I told him, it's here, and he just stopped me today. He's like, he goes, "You guys are I go to your site all the time. If I need any news, I just go right to your site and you guys have it." And it wasn't like he wasn't being sarcastic. It was just a genuine, this was like an hour and a half ago. So I don't know how new of a fan he is because it's just the first time he's seen me, but a very genuine North Central PA plug. So I wanted to pass that to you and to the other people.
Nice. Great job. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Thanks for watching the Midday Show, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Have at it.